COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us all how much the American healthcare system has failed us.
You'll be able to keep your healthcare plan, period.
We are facing a gap between those who have and those who have not that is growing at a frightening pace.
My heart breaks for the millions of Americans who have been left behind.
The government has made sure the days where someone could affordably access health care are long gone.
At the FDA, only those companies with enough money and resources get approval, and once those companies do, they weaponize patents to keep out competitors.
All they do is squat on the patents of the old drugs that they have and jack up the prices of drugs that have been around longer than most of us have been alive, to the point where it's unaffordable. They jack it up 100 or 1,000 times because they know that the insurance and Medicaid and Medicare have to pay for it.
When we get the government out of healthcare and allow the costs to go down and the access to true affordable care to go up, it will be because of you.
We haven't had anything even close to a free and competition-based system in nearly a century.
If you get government out of healthcare, costs will go back down to the equilibrium. And we won't end up in a situation where the same government that decides whether we're essential or not decides whether or not we get healthcare.
Medicare is under threat like never before. You know that.
The current American healthcare system isn't working for anyone, other than the wealthy and the well-connected who always have access, or the billion-dollar insurance companies that bring in new record profits every year. It's time for real change. I'm Jo Jorgensen, and I approve this message.
And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the Coalition Radio Network at coalitionradionetwork.com, facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio, and of course our old mothership, coalitionradio.us, as we've moved into Coalition, 3.0, coalitionradionetwork.com. I say Coalition Radio show tonight, and that's the last time I'll probably say this. I've got on the air a young man who is already accomplishing great things for the Libertarian Party. Of course, if you join us regularly on An Hour with the Candidates, you'll have met Andre Klaas about a month or so ago. And it came to me that this young man, who's got a remarkable clarity in terms of the issues and a maturity, and now I'm sounding like his father probably, or his grandfather, but a maturity beyond his years. It would be fascinating, if you will, to catch up with him every week or so, sometimes every week, sometimes or so, as he rides the COVID campaign trail. He was out early and often, to his credit, before the dread plague hit, and that's given him a unique perspective and also a unique opportunity relative to his election. But we're going to let him tell that story. But joining me now for the second time, and the first time on the Coalition, and as of tonight, the first time on his own show, is Andre Klaas. He's a Libertarian. He's running for Seminole County Commission District 5. His old website was called AndreForSeminole.com. And I think this is great because it makes it really easy, YourNextCommissioner.com. Did I get that right, Andre?
Yep, and of course, it's still the same website, and it's one of many multiple domain names that I have porting to it. But indeed, YourNextCommissioner.com is essentially made to be a bold statement of what can potentially be achieved in this election. And I was, of course, the very first candidate to file for this race 2 whole years ago. And of course, after a year and a half going around collecting signatures, collecting candidacy petitions, the first to qualify after getting those 3,000 signatures to be on the ballot. And of course, my dedication, my commitment to this cause and trying to make a difference for my local community and starting early, that put me into a unique position where I was the first candidate in any race in my county to actually qualify by petition. And on that particular front, I'm fortunate that the COVID pandemic didn't hit me as hard as many other candidates around our nation who have been, of course, not just on the local level, but even on the national level with Dr. Joe Jorgensen and the Spike Cohen ticket in our presidential race, where we still have states who are still scrambling to get the signatures for ballot access for these candidates. And it's been a little bit hard on me in terms of the whole situation with COVID because we're seeing people getting cutthroat at each other like never before
Mm-hmm.
and forgetting many of the core important issues that go into a county commission race. But one thing I am happy about is that I am starting to see as we're getting closer to the election now with just under 2.5 months to go, that now I know who my playing field is going to be with because the Democratic primary in my race was just decided last night.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I knew about the establishment Republican that's going to be in this as well. So it's going to be a three-way race in November, and starting to find event opportunities where I'm able to showcase myself, showcase my campaign to local registered voters, and continuing to make impacts and involvements on some of these local issues and making sure that the citizens' voice is heard and respected because citizen empowerment has been one of my key focuses since the very beginning of this whole process.
Excellent. So let's start at the very beginning. And we have a little bit of an echo there. Let's go back even before the 2 years. And we covered a little bit of this ground on an hour with a candidate, but this is going to be put through a little bit of a different channel. So let's start at the very beginning. What, and you've heard me ask this 100 times probably, but what was your libertarian moment, not just in identifying, assessing the issues that matter to you and identifying the philosophy and the party, but then as a next step, voluntarism and volunteerism are both aspects of the libertarian movement. What motivated you to run for office?
Well, I've lived in Seminole County for my entire life. I was born and raised here. I'm a product of our public school system, and I've worked for over 10 years at locally owned technology and customer service related businesses. And seeing a lot of the same old in our local political scene, wasteful spending, citizens not being respected. And it's just been one vicious cycle year after year after year. And there's not been the appropriate proper changes that we've been needing in our government. It's just the same establishment politics, the same cutthroat partisanship of people going at each other, no real positive change. So essentially I ran to essentially become that voice in the like that bright positive voice in the darkness of our toxic political system right now. And so far I've been making a point to use this grassroots energy to get out there, to meet local residents and learn firsthand about the important key issues from them, and just jumping on them and making it a point to make an impact on these issues because this isn't about me as a candidate. This is about my hometown community, friends, families, neighbors, our next generation that's going to be growing up here. And I want to be able not only to set a positive example in what an otherwise ordinary seeming citizen might be able to do, but
Mm-hmm.
that we can all work together, regardless of whether we stand on the left or the right hand side of the political spectrum, and step up, work together, and make a difference.
Now, for a young man, you've got an extensive resume in terms of hands-on work. You're immersed in the local business community, as well as being a candidate. And again, attending school there, you've got a full perspective of the challenges and the opportunities that Seminole County presents. I can tell from your site, and again, you can either go to andreforseminole.com or you can go to yournextcommissioner.com. I want to make sure I get that straight. But you can tell that you have not just an affection for where you live, but it's just you love where you live. You just have this, in a bond with your community. Tell us about, you had challenges, but at the same time, you clearly love where you live. Tell us about that.
Sure, absolutely. Well, Seminole County is right in the Central Florida region, just north of Orlando and south of Daytona Beach. So we're right smack in the middle between Volusia and Orange counties, and it's right along the I-4 corridor. It's the third most dense county in the state. It's 345 square miles, of which we have 472,000 residents, and approximately three-quarters of those are all registered to vote. And Seminole County has a really unique demographic too, because we have a one-third split of Republicans, Democrats, and independent NPA or other party voters. And so we were actually declared as a microcosm of the nation after 2018's election cycle. And so it's going to be a really unique situation because more and more people here have been paying greater attention to where candidates stay on the issues and taking the time to research their candidates and make that informed and educated decision whether when they go either to the voting booth or when they send their ballot in the mail. And so I have not only a unique county in terms of the demographic, but also we have a really solid mix of all different types of both urban and rural development. So we have a large rural area on the eastern side of the county with environmentally sensitive wilderness areas. And at the same time, we also have in the urban areas, we have an international airport. We have the major interstate highway that runs through, and we also have some really unique natural treasures and natural attractions that have also helped Seminole County's tourism focused, basically a nature tourism focused center, and hence the county slogan, Florida's Natural Choice. And it's also really well known as being a high quality place to live and a very desirable place to live. And we have lots of different locally based businesses. We have tech companies. We have farmers markets. It's a truly wonderful place to live, and you literally get the best of everything here. And of course, being born and raised here, I wouldn't necessarily want to live anywhere else. Not to put down any of the great cities and great counties all and great states across our nation, of course. But Seminole County is what I know, and it's truly in my heart. And it's otherwise known as a servant's heart because a leader should be aiming to represent and serve the people of the community rather than to be a king to dominate and to desire more control, which sadly has been happening for quite some time.
Tell us about, let's dive deep into that philosophy, because now that I've had the opportunity to speak with you a few times, that's something you wear on your sleeve. You talked about, I'll use the word moribund. That's my word for the day. I've dropped the moribund card a couple times today. But you, without, it's unimportant who he or she is, but you do have a long-term, entrenched, almost corporatist philosophy in your county commission. Tell us, compare and contrast that notion of citizen servant activist with what appears to be a county king.
Well, essentially, it's what I'm doing is putting that community-centered focus because it's not necessarily about making a left, right, or center campaign. It's about putting the Seminole County community and what they look for in a leader first before all else, even before myself for that matter. Because I mean, I have sleepless nights sometimes because I'm just all in trying to do everything I can for this community. And essentially, it's not about pandering to big developers or special interest groups or companies that are ultimately seeking to get their person in so that they can get big handouts. It's about having a citizen representative that's not beholden to anybody except the community who they're going to be held accountable to, and moving forward and applying that customer service oriented philosophy from my professional experience. Essentially, a position of civic leadership is the most important customer service position of them all. And that's the key word that many that have run for office in the past and many that have become elected right now have lost their way upon, because when a position of leadership is supposed to be a position of service to others, not self-service for your own personal vendetta or your own personal gain.
What do you, in your mind, again, you've immersed yourself in the local business community, you work locally, you've gone to school locally, technical school. What's the, post-COVID, pre-COVID, let's just, for the time being, because we're going to have plenty of time to talk over the next few weeks, the next couple of months. What's an issue that you'd like to showcase today in terms of whether it be the business economy, whether it be education? What's an issue you think is really resonating with the voters of Seminole County?
I think right now, and here we have a lot of local businesses that have been really hurting from this situation. Part of it is to an extent related to things that are within the county's control, but some of these things are also related to items from the state level control. And one thing that we've been seeing is that not only before COVID, where we've had government interference, where certain businesses have been given handouts or special breaks compared to other businesses and creating unfair situations of competition, essentially, where government's picking winners and losers. But even right now, we're seeing government interference. Like right now, for example, the state just recently forced all of the bars to close, and there's no telling when they may or may not be allowed to reopen. And what really bothers me is that when businesses who are local, not only that are locally owned businesses, have been already taking appropriate precautions, following all the guidelines that have been set forth, and yet government comes in and says, you know what, we're just going to make you close because we can in the name of safety. And that's just a blatant abuse of authority. And apparently the state just did a workshop with some of these local bar owners, and they're being told, well, it's probably going to be between 6 months to a year before you're able to reopen. I'm like, really? I mean, so basically you're taking one bad apple and using that as the example to put business owners underwater, employees out of jobs, and people out of their homes. It just boggles my mind. And so it's my firm belief that we really need to not only level the playing field for local businesses by stopping the big corporate handouts that have been going on for years after years after years, because corporate welfare, it's just disgusting to me, really, that the big tech company that actually produced the unemployment system in our state, which was riddled with problems that caused people not to be able to get their benefits, actually had gotten millions of dollars of my county's residents' tax money. And at the same time, local mom and pop businesses are being forced to close as a result of abusive government mandates. And I think that's going to be a really key issue right now, that we need a leader that can advocate for these businesses to the state level and potentially even pursue other remedies if these infringements on local home rule are going to continue coming into play.
Corporate welfare is the devil's spawn. You're absolutely right. There is unfairness would be the for the family version of the show. One of the ways that we could communicate the evil behind corporate welfare in Rhode Island, where I'm based, is to point out to people that not only are you picking winners and losers, as you so adroitly pointed out, not only are you, if you will, effectively using personal power to move government for your own personal reasons, but you're actually taking resources away from companies through the brutal force of coercive taxation, and taking that and redistribute it to, very often, the competition for the same consumer dollar that they work so hard for. And, it's, for those who've heard me talk before, it's sort of a mantra of mine, so I apologize, but it's, we've got another stadium project here in Rhode Island, a $400 million soccer stadium. And they've developed this TIF format where they're going to carve out sales tax from a particular region, and use that to support the debt structure, if you will, of this stadium that probably no one will ever go to post-COVID. But that's another point. And so you're literally stealing from people. You're forcing them to work that much harder to have to make their business essentially finance local competition for their dollar. I can't think of much outside of physical violence that's more immoral.
Yep, and here in Seminole County, we have another couple examples right now.
Sure.
We have so on one of the main highways that goes through our county, there was a property, and I used to go there a lot as a kid. It's called Flea World, and it was a fun artisan marketplace, a little amusement park. And now, of course, that legacy, in my mind, is completely tarnished by a lot of activities going on in that very same location. So, of course, Flea World had been demolished because the developer wanted to put a big housing commercial development there. And of course, what do you think they're going to do? They're going to reach out to the county's pocket, and the county government approved giving the developer $740,000 in incentives. So after demoing the property, the developer simply resold it and took off with our money. And now, right across from where that property is, where that main entrance was, the county is looking at building a $90 million new government operations building, which in my purview, I don't believe we really need right now. And even though the plans for said building haven't even been nowhere near finalized, nowhere near approved yet, the county is already spending $5.5 million for a road to that target site, 700 feet long. And pretty much it's literally a road to nowhere. And of course, who's going to end up benefiting in the end? Well, definitely not the taxpayers of our county right now.
Right. And that's even made more astonishing by the fact that probably most of the people who will work in that building are actually probably working from home. So this edifices that we continue to build to government, I'm gonna give you Andre. We haven't met in person yet. I hope we will soon in the next couple of months.
For sure.
But I don't know if you're a movie person right now, but there's a movie called Brazil from years ago. I think Terry Gilliam from the original Monty Python, and I'm dating myself here, comedy crew was in it. And, the movie opens up with someone working at a stone desk, engaged in some trivial pursuit. And as the camera pans back a little at a time, you see more people working at stone desks, handing pieces of paper to the person next to them, and it pans back, and there's more, and there's more, and there's more. And then you realize it's a government building. And they're accomplishing nothing other than the movement, if you will, of information with no real idea of how to use that information. That's the problem behind these government cathedrals that we insist on building. You talk about a building like that, it's probably been bonded, which just is explosive to an exponential effect on the cost of the actual building between the fees and the interest. So that $90 million building probably becomes $120 or $130 million. And, the ultimate question is, well, what could they do with those resources? Well, if you're a libertarian, what's the answer? I don't know. Let the people who originally worked to earn them keep them and spend them if they want to,
or using
not.
the money. Yeah, or using the money more proactively for the more urgent needs of our community. Like we can be more proactive with our infrastructure, for example, or we could dedicate more resources for specific areas of the community for targeted areas. And we have an unincorporated community called Midway. It's actually right in the heart of my district, and my race is an at-large seat. So I'm, of course, trying to win over the entire constituency of this county. But in the heart of my district, right by the airport, is a 100-year-old, predominantly African-American community called Midway. And I've been going to their community meetings for quite some time. And even though that they are paying their fair share of taxes year after year, that the infrastructure has been neglected, there are safety concerns, the area is continually dealing with flooding, and at the same time, their voices have been continuing to be ignored. They have not been given equitable representation that they deserve, that they are entitled to as tax-paying residents and citizens of our great county. And it's a big personal cause that I've been taking on, that we need to make sure that every citizen from the largest city to the smallest town are given their voice back, given that power back to the citizens, and making sure we're able to have positive impacts. Because if we supposedly have money for a $93 million monument to oneself, we can definitely give a sewer system for the 2,000 residents or 2,000 or so residents that live in that unincorporated area in the heart of District 5.
Let's talk about the campaign. Again, like most campaigns, there's a delineation there, a line in the sand, pre-COVID, post-COVID. As you look through your website, again, it's a great site because you have a feeling it's joyful, and you see yourself doing a lot of things in the community. What were some of your campaign activities pre-COVID? What were some of the things that you were turning out for?
Well, I was always and continue to do what I can to make it a point to show up wherever I can, make my voice heard as wherever I can, stand up on the issues at the county and city government meetings, table as many festivals, college meet and greets. Pretty much everybody knows that I show up everywhere, because in the end, that organic outreach is the best type of outreach. And especially on the third party ticket, it's also my biggest strength, because I just love interacting with people and socializing with people, and people feel better when they know that they're being listened to, that their concerns are being addressed, and I'm the candidate that can potentially make that positive impact. Not only that, of course, COVID has, over the past several months, caused a mass cancellation of a lot of different opportunities. It's only very recently that there was a back to school bash I was able to be a part of, couple of hobnobs that were in person, and now I found out that looks like Alive After 5, which is a block party styled event, is going to be starting back up again next month, where I'm going to be tabling, of course, while taking appropriate precautions, making sure that sanitizer is available for everybody. Because in the end, my support base stretches across the entire political spectrum, from the hard left all the way to the hard right. And I want to do everything I can to be that voice of reason, bringing everyone together. And of course, making sure that through this process that I can build that comfort as a potential leader and be able to foster those creative and constructive solutions. So now, of course, that we're on the home stretch with just about 75 days left to go till November 3rd. And I'm just going to keep getting out there as much as I can. Even though the county commission meetings are still virtual, I'm still making a point to check out the agendas, calling to speak up, taking part in virtual candidate forums on Zoom. And if there are any in-person ones, of course, I would gladly attend. It's been definitely one lot of venture. I mean, I've had one of the longest running 2020 candidacies in this not only this part, but probably in this country right now, because I've been in this race for 25 months, and it's definitely been one exciting adventure. It's been life-changing for me, and I've already been making great impacts on the community. The county brought back its Citizens Academy program, and I'm not slowing down. I'm just keeping full force forward. When I'm not at work, I'm back on the campaign trail. I mean, the thing is, I know that the community needs an independently minded leader that's ready to serve them, and I got to keep this going. I can't stop, and I won't stop.
That's outstanding. Two things I want to highlight. The first one is the fact that you're listening to people. I have a sense, just from having spoken to you a couple of times now, that when we were a little, well, my generation, your mother would tell you, put your listening ears on. Has it been a while since any elected candidate in your county commission area, if you will, has had their listening ears on. I get that sense, and I want you to stress how important that is, not only as a leader, but also just as someone who's campaigning for office. Why is listening so important?
Well, listening is so important because in the end, the citizenry want people that can represent them. I mean, that's the whole purpose of public service. And of course, we see our elected officials that sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. It just really seems to depend on what the issues are in the particular situation or the particular conversation. That right now, of course, some of the current commissioners that are actually running for reelection are showcasing, in particular, issues and focusing on said issues where they've demonstrated a track record of listening to the citizenry. But I'm not just focusing on those particular issues. I'm focusing on all the issues. Where's the abuse? Where's the waste? Where have there been situations where the public has not been represented? And I'm just doing what I can to bring attention to those items. But indeed, it's all about really common sense values and not just putting listening ears on, but standing up for what's right, holding true to principles. And I'm glad that I've been able to represent myself as a steadfast candidate of principle and just show, hey, I'm not trying to be another partisan politician. I'm just trying to be the leader that's homegrown, the leader that's organically running a citizen candidate, not beholden to the establishment, and ready to work for the people of our great county.
Now, another attribute that you pointed out is you're already immersed in attending meetings that would become part of your routine. And for a friend of mine, he calls that "don't wait to be the," or I should say this: be when you're the candidate, be the office that you want to be. In other words, don't wait. There's no magic coronation that has to take place once you're elected for you to dive deep into the issues. You know, the elections are littered with people who decided to start showing up for Board of Ed meetings 3 months before a Board of Ed election. You're showing up a year, 2 years in advance in some cases. And number one, there's a credibility that you're going to have because your hands are right in the middle of all these issues that as they emerge day to day. And folks are going to see you and identify you with that position as well. I can't stress that to candidates enough. Don't wait to get involved. Be what you're running for. How many meetings do you think you've gone to at this point? You know, in the last 2 years. You know, and especially given COVID.
Yeah, well, I know I've definitely been attending a lot of them, and honestly, with everything going on in this campaign, I mean, I've been involved in so many different city and county meetings that I can't even count them all. And you're absolutely right, Pat, that it's all about showcasing and letting people see that track record. Because in the end, as a candidate, especially a more independent candidate like myself running on a third party ticket with the Libertarian Party, that I have to essentially bear fruit before I even have the tree. And so far, I've definitely built myself up a track record of strong community rapport and involvement. And not only that, Pat, but also a big part of it is letting people not only see me that I'm out there, but also see that I'm genuinely enjoying being part of our political process and being part of these issues, being part of this involvement, and just having a great time. I mean, this whole experience, it's been mind blowing. The amazing things that I've been able to achieve, not just on the community level, but actually being able to get on the national delegation stage and give the toast of honor for our presidential nominee and get to learn about how the sheriff's department works, get to learn how the fire department works, get to learn about all these different areas of municipal government operation. And indeed, an empowered citizen is one of the most important tools that a leader should have at their arsenal. And I strongly desire that more citizens be able to step up, be engaged with the process, understand the process, know what's going on in the heart of their government, and be able to have that positive influence and that greater degree of direct control over their community, over their leadership, and over their destiny.
Outstanding. I hope what we're going to be able to do in the coming weeks is perhaps as we get together on and off, it's we're going to try to do it every week, but you've got a hectic schedule of campaigning, and that's the first priority is for you to get out there. But just as some ideas, perhaps when you do that tabling event, let's do a live stream that, off of your campaign page, and we'll be happy to share it here from our perspective, and we'll see if we can get other libertarian pages to share that so the libertarian community can have a kind of a bird's eye view on what you're attempting to do here. Let's talk about an issue every week that's affecting your county, because, there's as unique as Central Florida is, it's also a lot of the same. Americans are facing a lot of the same issues everywhere. There's a lot of frustration out there with the sort of intransigent, seemingly cast in stone leadership cadre in this country, and I use the term cadre intentionally. There's a lot of, quite frankly, there's fear in this country. There's real fear about the oncoming fall and winter in this country because of all the challenges that we're being faced with now, as the country has not been able to shut this down quickly. There's this element of whack-a-mole taking place all over the country, and that's when people want to hear not necessarily solutions, because solutions are easy and they operate in their own little vacuum. People want to hear conversation and discussion and analysis they want to be involved in the solutions. They don't want to just have them inflicted upon them. I think we've all seen in the last few months what happens when governments inflict solutions on people. Hasn't really worked out well, neither in Central Florida or in northern Rhode Island where I am, or wherever people who begin to listen to your story. So let's have some fun. What have you got coming up this week, in the next week or so, in terms of the campaign, in terms of events, both fundraising, meet and greets, virtual or otherwise? What do you got coming up?
Yeah, well, I'm glad to say that I've finally been able to put together a true and proper fundraising banquet gala styled event, and I'm blessed that from one of my supporters who I met at a recent hobnob, that he's donating his space and also covering all of the dinner arrangements as an in-kind contribution. And of course, it's a pretty large-sized room, so that way there's going to be plenty of space so everybody can be comfortably distanced and at the same time still be able to have a pretty good crowd. I'm up to just about at $18,000 raised now, and so I recently found out from the state party when they were doing some analysis that my campaign has been doing a lot better than many other had expected around the state. And so I'm really excited that we're going to be getting some billboards on the interstate promoting the campaign. And of course, from this big fundraising drive, I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to reach a good target number to be able to afford getting postcards out to super voters and target precincts, and continuing what I can for targeted advertising to reach local voters, because while I've had to pull back on some of my organic opportunities because of everything going on, I have to do what I can to try to balance these things out, work with the cards that are dealt to me, and just keep putting my best foot forward. And that's all I can really do right now. And just at the same time, it's the home stretch, and every penny is going to be stretched as much as it possibly can for the most maximum impact and the strongest showing. And I'm pretty certain that this is going to be the biggest and greatest Libertarian Party showing in Seminole County in the longest time. And I'm really, really excited not only to be able to represent the party, but also do my part to represent my local community.
Excellent. Do you have a fixed date on your event yet? Is that nailed down?
Yes, indeed. So my fundraising event's going to be on the 29th, Saturday, the 29th of August in the evening. It's going to be from 5 to 8 p.m. at Chianti's event venue in Sanford. I have the information up on my Facebook page at facebook.com/Andre for Seminole. And that's where you can also follow a lot of my fun adventures that have been progressing over all this time. have one of the most active and engaging social media campaigns with over 5,000 likes. That's more than any other candidate in my county right now. And indeed, my message of working together for the community, it's really resonating with a lot of people on all parties and with independent voters. And so I'm very, very optimistic of the probability of an impending victory in November. And of course, even if you can't make it down here for my fundraiser, of course, you can also go to yournextcommissioner.com, hit the donate button at the top, and then, of course, it'll be a great opportunity to invest in a high profile libertarian campaign like my own. And that way we can continue these positive impacts and continue paving that road to victory.
Excellent. And I want to suggest that people are long distance, and I know there's a lot of people. A lot of people are being asked for money, but here's an idea: if you live in a different part of the country and want to buy a ticket for the event, I'm sure Andre has a friend, or perhaps a young person, a young libertarian, or a young student who would like to go that might not be able to do that themselves. There's
Wait,
lots
did you
of
say
different...
tickets?
Yes.
Here's the thing that I'm doing
Okay.
with my event. I made it a point to separate myself from my competition, is that I'm not charging or asking a single penny or a
Really?
single dollar for anybody who's interested in coming to meet me as a candidate.
Mm-hmm.
And because the thing is, people should not have the impression that their leaders are the elite, that being able to interact and meet them and get their voice heard is something that should be reserved for the privileged or the wealthy. My job is going to be to represent every single citizen of this county with the utmost dignity and respect that they are entitled to. And that's one of the main reasons that I have not, nor will I ever, require an admission fee to attend my event and potentially meet me as a candidate. And of course, I'm always glad to avail myself for one-on-one meetings, interactions, phone calls, what have you, because my goal is to be answering to the people. So I am never going to have an event that requires tickets. And indeed, that's something our county government does year after year with the state of the county address. They partner with a local chamber and then they charge a hefty admission fee just to be able to be educated about what happens in our county. And I am going to put a stop to that. And if the county wants to keep doing that, then I'm just going to do my own thing because citizens need to be empowered. Citizens need to be respected. Citizens need to know that there's a leader that's ready to answer to them and not to the establishment.
Wow, that's powerful stuff, buddy. What's the old line? Color me impressed. Before you go for tonight, I think the mission this week is to think of a name for the show, maybe On the Road with Andre or something. You're going to come up with something. But again, give folks one more shot at where they can donate and also where they can find out about your candidacy and where they can watch you just
Absolutely.
sort of grow as a leader.
So my website again is yournextcommissioner.com, and that's actually going to be printed on all of my yard signs and on my billboards, of course. So you can learn more about me by clicking on that around my website. And I built that website myself, and I've been able to apply a lot of my grassroots and my technical affinities to this campaign. And one thing that I should also mention, Pat, is that I am the first Libertarian Party candidate in our county's history to actually win a straw poll. I just won 2 weeks ago. I won a straw poll against both the general and the primary candidates. It was a 5-way straw poll. I got 45% of the vote, while my Republican establishment opponent got 25, and the Democrats there got even fewer. I never imagined in my wildest dreams to be able to develop such a strong standing, but that's because this campaign is rooted with such a deep community foundation, and one I'm proud to be a part of, ranging from, of course, my involvement in helping to develop the aviation magnet program in our public school system, which is one of the most comprehensive and well-reputed programs in our county's history, to just being born and raised here and being part of the local technology scene with a local radio show helping people with their problems with tech right live every Sunday. And so it's a privilege to be a part of our nation's great political process. And it's an honor to have the support and the backing of all of our great residents, and of course, from the Libertarian Party. And we're going for the gold, and gold is the color of victory. And I firmly believe with all my heart that November 3rd will be a great night for everyone.
Excellent. Well, the first time you joined us, you were with the Hour with the Candidates. Now we're going to kick off sort of a weekly show. We're going to follow the campaign as it goes along. Andre Klaus, congratulations on all your efforts, on your successes. We're going to be talking, folks, again, andreforseminole.com and Your Next Commissioner. Did I get that straight? yournextcommissioner.com. All right.
That's right.
Congratulations, and we'll be talking in the next couple of days.
Thank you, Pat. It's a privilege to have joined you all today, and I'm looking forward to future broadcasts.
All right, buddy. We're going to close out for tonight. We are the Coalition, at least for tonight. Loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Radio Network at coalitionradionetwork.com. We're going to make this show available for repeat. We're going to be replaying it here at our headquarters across the libertarian land, if you will. And also, we're going to try and get this out there because I think there's powerful object lessons for candidates, well, literally of every background and everywhere. Facebook.com/the Coalition Radio, on the mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio, and most importantly, andreforseminole.com. We'll see you in a few days, folks. Thanks very much.
Good night.